see that become a job of the future, if not already in companies today. I am personally certified through the Chief AI Officer Association, and we're going to start to see that and many other jobs of the future start to
common ethical pitfalls of AI. So, like, how can businesses
Oh,
avoid them? Like, where do we cross that line where we shouldn't probably be using AI?
favorite one. But what I would do is go into the LLM of your choice and say, I want only 5 minutes a day. I want it in audio. I want it in written form. I want it that comes once a week or whatever the case may be. And then it is going to spit out a series of different newsletters that you can attach yourself with.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of AI. What about AI agents? Today we have Nicole Hilgenkamp. She's an AI advocate, senior leader at Cargill, global operations expert, and she's going to talk to us about her background and expertise in transportation and how AI is changing that. She's also an AI advocate and a brand ambassador for the She's AI magazine that focuses on promoting women in AI and ethical technology. So really excited to have you on the show today, and yeah, I'd like you maybe to introduce yourself to our guests, and we can get started.
Happy to be here. I have been working for some of the largest privately held companies for the past 20 years, working on changing and transforming their people, process, and technology. And it's been a great ride with lots of learning and consistently learning. Everyone, I'm Nicole Hilgenkamp, and I'm happy to be here today.
Perfect, Nicole. So let's, I guess, just dive into it, and maybe you can share with us like some of the practical applications that AI has been transforming in the transportation industry with, and what sort of challenges have you been facing with the adoption, like in your space?
Oh, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about enterprise companies, large, complex organizations with lots of tech stack and people and process to contend with, and how that fits into AI agents. I'm not necessarily going to talk as much around transportation because we're not doing as much in that space, but
Uh,
we are starting to leverage in enterprise how we bring in AI agents. And what I'm learning in that journey is really to make sure that there are a lot of parameters in place and business readiness. I don't think people AI is awesome for the fact that this is the fastest type of technical transformation that I've seen that is as intuitive and easy to go live with, right? But when you bring an agent in, people are starting to think that it's as easy to do that. And what you really need to consider before you bring your agents in is that you have documented your process flow. You have the answers that the agents need to go after, and you have your knowledge management in a way in which the agents can leverage that knowledge management and how they interact with you, whether that be your consumers or your your internal businesses that the agents are helping with. And what I'm seeing from an adoption perspective
hmm.
with leveraging AI agents is that, some horror stories, right, where that wasn't necessarily all in place. And then we have AI agents answering based off of knowledge that's not accurate, or it's not complete. And so if you really want to get to like drive scale of your agent, you really have to like look at your workflow and your process and ensure that's the process that you can then put the agents against. And then also what is your data inputs and knowledge bases that the agents will use to help to start to take care of your customers. And that's our number one. I mean, that's our number one best practice. I think I could tell you in a large company that we've learned that we've had to do really well in order to be able to just get speed to value out of that agent at go live.
Hmm. And what are you mostly using these agents for now? Like, is it more for internal kind of support or for customer support and things like that?
Yeah, yeah. It's because we're big and complex. We see it in pockets across the organizations.
Mm,
Um, and we have agents that are internal HR agents. We have agents that are interacting with our customers.
mm,
So what we're not doing is we're not going grand scale on agents where they're very specialized in a um, department, division, sector of our organization where we feel that it would provide the most value. So there's no central management of these agents. They are
mm,
managed then, therefore, by the individual departments and domains throughout our company. And they utilize the use cases that they have where an agent would make sense.
mm. So, do you think like eventually we're gonna see roles like chief AI officer coming up, where like somebody rules all the agents? Because I think that's
That's a great question. Let's talk a little bit about Chief AI Officer. I definitely think that you're going to see that become a job of the future, if not already in companies today. I am personally certified through the Chief AI Officer Association, and we're going to start to see that and many other jobs of the future start to evolve around agents. I don't know. I always say that AI doesn't necessarily need to be in technology. It really should be at the executive level because AI is not just a technology, it's a strategic partner, it's a co-pilot. It really should be in every sector of a business. So I think we're going to see more chief AI officers that would then manage how we deploy and scale AI across the entire spectrum of our organizations. I think that there will be a need for leaders to learn how to manage humans and agents at the same time. Meaning, if I'm a manager or a leader, I would have 4 direct reports that are humans and 2 agents that I need to oversee as almost like a product owner. And then how do you do that as a leader? These are new skills that we're all learning because I'm going to tell you that those humans that you manage aren't necessarily wanting to look to the left and right and see an agent sitting in that seat. And so we have to say, how can we help our humans get into the change curve and get comfortable with looking left and right and seeing an agent there versus another human?
well, yeah, it's almost like it's a huge transformation for any organization and moving. So how did Cargill like decide to start adopting it like left, right, and center? Was it like a board mandate where they said like we're gonna go AI in 2024, or was it coming from the grassroots, like where the managers are just saying like we want to automate our stuff, and it didn't like where did it come from within your organization?
Yeah, everyone's going to do it a bit differently. So just big enterprises that I've worked with, I will tell you that they would, some of them are doing it ground
Yeah.
up with use cases. So they're looking at where they're going to get the value out of an agent.
Mm,
And if it's a good use case that has a good ROI associated with it, then they're going and asking for the funding, asking for the oversight, and asking for support from
mm-hmm.
the technical teams, because there does need to be cross-functional partnership. I'm also seeing in other enterprises, so I'm not speaking especially on the company I work with right now, but I work with other enterprises.
Right.
I'm seeing them be built by employees and used on their desktop. And that's what CEOs really need to understand is that AI is happening whether they're controlling it in the business or not. And it's happening where we're building agents on our desktop to help us with our work all day. And in some cases, when in a scenario that I'm aware of, there was a quality assurance leader in IT that built it to help answer all the inquiries of the customers against the products. And
Mm,
so, and to look and audit their quality UAT testing. So they built it for their own. And guess what? Then the department manager came in and said, we need to scale this. We need an AI product owner for these types of agents and to start to build that work, that work through agents, because there was more than just the use case that individual used in his desktop.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the bigger things. And then the question of like how do we get this AI compliant, right? Because a lot of like private company data is now like going into OpenAI or Anthropic or any of those companies' hands. And uh,
Right. And when you see big companies, you're going to see, they're going to lock down a lot to control exactly what I just said, where the individual, the employees do, they're going to take advantage of the entire technical playground that they can play within. And some of them have not even had, ethical training, right? So there could be company information going in there that they think is okay, because if they can put it in there, then the company must be okay with it. The companies in some cases are not getting the parameters put in place. And on the vice versa, that we're seeing companies lock everything down to where you can't even start to experiment use cases because you can't get into anything.
right.
So
Well, there are employees that like take photos of the screen and then send it to ChatGPT and tell it just give me the answer. And it still leaks. There is no way to protect it, right? So either you
correct.
adopt it and you give your teams tools to do it properly, or it's gonna leak. And it's gonna leak into the hands of people who you might not want to have it, right?
Right. And I definitely want to encourage the listeners that are working in large companies to really think about a couple things that have worked well for me is to, one, bring in the education for all. When
Yeah.
you bring in that education, that's great. You also have to say with safeguards and also with executive sponsorship. So you have to tell your organization that you are promoting the use of AI at work, and that your goal is to utilize AI to build capacity so that we can work on more value added tasks that grow the company and prepare you for jobs of the future. And if that comes from an executive leader to or business owner down, then those knowledge workers that are sitting at the entry and mid levels are going to feel good about what they're doing at their desktop, because they know it's going to upskill them, and with the upskill they're going to be able to gain a promotion, stay at the company, grow the company, etc. But if they don't hear that from executive leadership and they just train everyone, then the individuals are thinking that they're training themselves out of a job. So you need those two things at the top. You need regulation, guardrails, training, and executive sponsorship, both. Then if you can do more of and what has worked for me in the past is a hackathon, so that everyone has permission to experience. The people that know where the AI agents can work the best, they experiment, they pull them all into a pipeline, and then you prioritize that pipeline based on return on investment in order to understand where you're going to invest in scaling. Because if you do experimentation with large teams, you're going to have more use cases than you know what to do with, or that you're prepared for. So that's where then you could, in a community of practice way, bring in those use cases in and create your AI pipeline.
Yeah, I think creation of AI practices would be extremely beneficial for any company. And also, one of the things that we've been talking about with other guests is introduction of small language models, which is something that the company deploys locally, so the information doesn't leak into the broader web, because a lot of trade secrets can end up in the wrong hands if not properly set up.
Exactly. And those are the professions that are, quite frankly, just booming for that reason. As people are starting to recognize the need for safeguards, and they're doing it through creation of their own LLMs that they own and manage.
Right. So moving on, so there are many leaders who are hesitant to adopt AI, and I think we gave them enough kind of points, but maybe if you can give them like some good advice of like why they should adopt AI and like why it should be on the top of their kind of list, because a lot of the leadership is hesitant about it and they're scared and compliance, security, all that stuff. But maybe you can give them some
Yeah,
advice.
absolutely. What I would tell you is a couple things. One is leaders are leaders that are concerned with it have not taken the step to adopt it in their own personal work. Okay. If they did, they would start to feel more comfortable and they would start to see the benefits that they could bring to themselves to be the strategic partner. We don't expect any CEO to have studied all the history and all the best practice and all the domain knowledge in order to be the CEO. That's the way of the old, right? And now you're going to see younger CEOs because those CEOs now can leverage all of what has come by them, the best mindsets of every best business person as their strategic partner. It is like sitting in the room with every best of history and saying, what should I do? And if the leaders, the CEOs if they start to do that, then they will start to see blind spots that they never even anticipated, because that's what AI does really well. There's a great book by Jeff Woods, Geoff Woods, about an AI being the CEO's strategic partner. And it also is not only their strategic partner, it's their therapist, it's their tax accountant, it's their everything, right? And you become addicted to utilizing AI for so many things in your life once you start to play with it. So those that are afraid of it aren't playing with it. I'm
Right.
not saying that you don't get in there and you play with it, but then you start to understand the parameters and how you do need a human in the loop to oversee. But then you start to get good at how you ensure the safeguards are in place. If you're not playing with it all day long, like I wake up in the morning and go all the way to bed at night, I'm using it throughout my entire day. Once you build that habit, then the CEOs are going to understand how powerful it can be for them. And the example that Jeff provided in the book is that the CEO was trying to influence the board, right? What CEO doesn't try to influence the board? They create PowerPoint decks, right? And then they depend on a lot of people to read through all these decks. And what they did is they loaded into the AI the personality of their board. And with those personalities, they then presented the deck to AI to say, what questions am I going to get asked? And the board there, they said, this person's probably going to ask you about slide 37 and what you're going to do about that piece, because that's what they would want to know. And that after that CEO did that, ingested all the personality, put the deck against and role played the board meeting. That was the best board meeting that they've ever were able to accomplish.
Right, because now we can do things at scale that we couldn't do before. And these
Correct.
assistants enable us to basically like quintuple our productivity easily throughout the whole day. Um,
Yeah.
Now, where do you see like AI? How do you see AI evolving in your industry? Like, how do you see different, like, where do you see it revolutionizing your specific space?
Yeah, I think, I operate in procurement, I operate in transportation. Um, and then of course there's marketing, there's sales, there's customer service, etc. Every single one of those has a use case. So specifically in what I, work on today of procurement, I see that, there will be an agent that helps people with their buying decisions, helps people find materials, helps people find alternative suppliers to bid with. So that's how we're starting to utilize AI agents in our organization, is to help be that seek and finder of material that we need right away, and to help us against where we have supply chain disruptions,
Mm.
to shift to other suppliers or where there is material available.
Mm.
We also use it a lot with market intelligence and to be able to help us alert us of market changes much quicker than we would have if we just produce a report every month like we used to do. We used to, pull the information, do a report. Well, I'm already 29 days at least behind where I could have reacted if there would have been an agent sending me that alert in order for me to change the behavior on that day, and take advantage and capitalize on that market shift.
Yeah, you can imagine because you have those voice agents now, so they can technically call the supplier and they can negotiate with the supplier because they know your information. So imagine it finds the suppliers list, it does deep research, gets all of them, calls all of them, negotiates all of them, and then says, "Well, this one gave me a better deal." Negotiates the best deal possible, comes back to you with three options of like very well negotiated deals, and it can do it now. I mean, if somebody was to write something like that, that would be beneficial for this industry, like for the
Yeah,
developer.
we haven't done that yet. We haven't done that yet. I wonder who would be the better negotiator. And, we should do a trial of agent versus human on a negotiation because, again, the agent's going to have every market intelligence information. They're going to go to the negotiating with every single part of homework. And that's what our sourcing professionals do today is they try to drive all that information and bring it into the meeting and remember it and regurgitate it at the right time. Right. And that's where an agent would be able to probably outperform some of our sourcing individuals.
Yeah, yeah, that's something that comes up. So, what's some of the common ethical pitfalls of AI? So, like, how can businesses
Oh,
avoid them? Like, where do we cross that line where we shouldn't probably be using AI?
definitely want to understand, everyone needs to understand the bias that comes with the AI. So AI has been built off history, right? And when humans aren't treated equally over the years, and that is what it was building our LLMs was all of that historical data. Then your large language models all have a bias, are all going to operate with a bias. So when you bring that into human resources, you're going to need to flesh that out. You have to flesh that bias out. That's one big ethical, consistent problem that we're going to have for the next however many 50 years until we're able to retrain those large language models to remove bias in things such as HR. Okay. Then there are definitely, as we use AI for good, you're going to start to see AI used for bad. And you're going to see as much and as quickly as we can train ourselves around our next strategic move, the criminals are out there doing the same with the information. So we're thinking about business growth. There's criminals thinking about utilizing it for how to hack faster. And now they don't even need to know how to code because they can learn that from the AI and they can hack into your system. So you're going to see a huge need for cybersecurity professionals across the organization, if that wasn't already hot the past decade, but it's going to get even hotter to make sure that we have those safeguards. And so data privacy is another huge ethical concern. And like you said, any single person can take something and put it into an LLM and never get it back. To get it back would be a very astronomical feat.
Hmm.
Because it's kind of like you take a photo and put it on the internet, you're never getting it back, right? That's what people need to really concern themselves around anything that they put into an LLM.
Right. Especially if you think about all those like procurement departments and places like that where they have vendors and then the vendors they send an invoice and in many cases a human they just look at the invoice and they pay the invoice, they don't even check, and there were some cases where fraudsters were doing that for some companies. They would send it in and they would pay it and they would accumulate millions of dollars in just stolen funds. Now imagine if they were to do it at scale, and some people upload those invoices into ChatGPT, so ChatGPT knows what those like invoices are, so what that specific company looks for. If somebody was to write a sophisticated agent and send that out to like a million companies, they could potentially like. So you would need to really, really reinforce the procurement. To my point, like the and
Absolutely.
people
Procurement.
who are
Absolutely.
like who are reviewing those vendor invoices to make sure that like there is not as much fraud because now it's open. It's much more open for fraud now, I would believe.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're going to happen is you're going to be able to be much more efficient utilizing AI to help you with agents, but then you're going to have to reinvest some of that back into the safeguards, back
Yeah.
into ensuring
Yeah.
that you have your fraud parameters put in place. So it's kind of a shift. I'm not saying people are like it's going to take our jobs. It's going to take our jobs, but new jobs will be created, and I think more new jobs will be created than lost. And that's where people are not understanding that they need to now to think about those jobs of the future a little bit differently. I feel sorry for all those individuals that are in college right now spending lots of money to learn something that'll be obsolete by the time they graduate within 4 years.
Yeah.
And did they choose the right profession? And those professions that they're choosing in college aren't AI ready yet. Every profession needs to say, how do I bolt on AI to this curriculum? And we're not doing that. And if we're not doing that, then we're graduating individuals that are not going to be workforce ready for what they are going to accomplish, what they're going to see happen when they graduate. And then they're going to be slow into the market for getting landing a job.
Yeah, the students of this like 2020 to 2028 are like the worst equipped because AI hasn't fully reached the workforce yet. They are coming out. They don't unless they learn those AI skills themselves. And once they learn those AI skills, the 4-year curriculum could have been learned in a year using AI, and it's kind of obsolete anyways. So it's such a shame, right? That they had to
And
pay all
yeah,
this money.
another safeguard I just want to inform the listeners of is that if you're not getting into adopting and understanding these risks, you're going to be the person that gets a call from an AI agent that tells you to give them your banking information, and they're going to sound like your banker.
Right.
So it's not please go adopt. It's you must adopt even to protect your livelihood that you have today. So it's an everything technology, and it's going to change our entire existence. We hope more so in a good way. We hope to find the cure for cancer with artificial intelligence, right? We
Yes.
hope to build social economical, underrepresented, countries and so forth that they can, be more competitive, et cetera, and give every human a good livelihood. But there you have to fight for that livelihood nowadays.
Absolutely. And now to shift gears a bit into the She is AI magazine, and maybe let's talk about this and the challenges that women face specifically in this space and what initiatives can help increase representation and can help drive like female adoption of AI, so to speak.
Absolutely. So a couple facts for the listeners is that women are underrepresented in AI jobs of the future. We only represent 22% of the AI population. And we are also seeing that the careers that women have are more susceptible to having AI take those types of roles away. So women have to be super conscious that we can bring our thought leadership to the table always in order to have the best outcomes. And right now we're underrepresented in AI and in tech. And we also have to make sure that we're looking at the types of roles that we aspire to be so that we can make sure that we are moving in the direction that AI will take us so that it does not take as much market share of where women careers are the majority. So those
Mm.
are the safeguards. And then of course, always the bias that exists in large language models is the other. Now, what I love about She is AI magazine and a lot of other female driven AI organizations. If you're a female, I think it's a great community to be in because you're going to talk about things that in those facts that I'm just talking about so that you're aware. And the way to change best is to have self-awareness. And there's some great community support on how women can utilize it. Like She is AI magazine, like She Leads AI, like those that you'll see on my LinkedIn profile. There's a lot of great training coming out from Microsoft for women. There's women defining AI as another medium for women to learn and to grow in their personal and professional lives.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of use cases that are very that would be much better executed by like a female leader to be able to bring those experiences that she has in the AI space. And it's unfortunate that right now the representation is extremely low, 25%. People don't seem to want to adopt it. We need to find ways to get them to adopt it. I mean, and they do use it. Like if they were like they get apps that utilize AI, but it's not like they're using Gen AI to ask like life defining questions. And like, how do we get them there?
Yeah, I mean, everyone can use AI for your relationships with your in your home life. You know, I have three daughters that in all different ages that I'm consistently saying, how do I approach this with this age of a daughter? And it
Mm.
gives me wonderful advice. It helps me, understand and see the blind spots. I mean, that I wouldn't be able to see by not using it. So it is everything to me. But I take what it says with a grain of salt always, but it can help you in your personal life. And I think people think it's a tech gadget for businesses, and it's not. It can help you with everything. You can take a picture of your watch and say, what's broken? You can take a picture of your refrigerator and say, what should I make tonight for dinner with the ingredients I have? So there's so many different things.
Yeah, I mean, I just had a baby like 4 months ago, and I asked it everything about the baby.
Yeah.
Everything goes into that thing. It's like, is the poop the right color? Is this the right? Is this right? Is the baby?
I love it. I love it. Absolutely. Take a picture of it, send it up there and say,
It's like,
what
well,
does it mean? Yeah.
because you don't know, like you're a young parent. How do you know, right? And it gives you all this experience that like because you don't get that even from doctors anymore. Like they are like everything is very because people have become like machines, and at this point, machines are more like humans in some cases, and they're more empathetic. That's what I've been
Yeah.
finding.
You know, our new currency is attention, our attention,
Right,
right? We
right.
don't have time to read that book that how to be a new parent and all the things that we need to know or retain it. We don't, we when I get big, you know, papers, etc., I'm already skimming them. And that's taking me time. I could just throw the paper into an AI and say, give me the summary points, right? So I think that's, what is also really beneficial is you can have instant response to how you need to do something versus reading the book or listening to the podcast or whatever the case may be.
Right, right, because your time is everything, and unless it's something that is like immensely enjoyable, like an enjoyable experience, you don't want to waste your time on it. So if it's a white paper or something else, you just throw it in, get the bullet points, and you move on, right? Like, which is also says something about us, right? How we have changed and how we start to like how we don't appreciate the information like 20 years ago, everything, the information felt more valuable, but nowadays it's more commoditized. So it's moving into such a. So where do you think it's gonna go? Like, how much more commoditized could it get?
Oh, you know, I subscribe to lots of newsletters just to try to keep abreast of where it's going, and I can't possibly keep up. Okay, so don't do that. Apply to one really good newsletter so that you can keep on top of it. I mean, we're into super intelligence. We're into so many different areas that this is going to go. It all depends on what the governments decide, and because that I think would be the only thing that would stand in the way of I don't know, I don't even know the type of intelligence that could exist because I don't think it's created yet.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about the super intelligence and things like that, where AIs program themselves, so instead of chief AI officer being a human, you're gonna have a chief AI officer being an AI, and your board will have like AI agents representing like investment funds. It's like imagine that. It's like you go up and eventually they're gonna have AI CEOs, and they're gonna be
Yeah.
solving problems of other AIs, and that's gonna be scary.
Yeah, right, right. And absolutely. And Absolutely. And you know, like you mentioned before, is it's a time saver, right?
Right.
So right now, everyone's fighting for time back, time back. Any piece of time you can give them back, and that's why it's just commoditizing itself tenfold.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. So you talked about newsletters. Can you recommend something to our listeners? What's your favorite AI newsletter now?
I love the Neutron. The
Neutron.
Neutron's a really good one. Um, I mean,
So
here's what I would tell you. Okay, this is what I tell everyone when people ask my opinion. I was like, it means something different for all of us. Now that's my favorite one, but what I would do is go into the LLM of your choice and say, I want only 5 minutes a day. I want it in audio. I want it in written form. I want it that comes once a week or whatever the case may be. And then it is going to spit out a series of different newsletters that you can attach yourself with. If there is a leader in the space that you particularly like, then that's where you might want to. I'm pretty sure that they would have a newsletter. So I would then kind of choose of the top three that the AI gives you as choices based on the parameters in which you want to see the information and can consume it to
that's good
choose your
advice.
favorite.
All right. And finally, I wanted to talk about regulation. So that's one of the topics that we've touched briefly across this discussion. And, I'm sure EU is going to come up, or already probably came up with a huge bill regulating everything about AI. But how do sane people regulate AI? Like, what do you think how do we safeguard our youth from AI? Because, like, kids right now, they're like, instead of doing their homework assignments, they're just like putting them into AI, and then AI is just over usage of AI for every little thing can sometimes lead to like brain degradation and things like that, where people become stupider as a
Yeah.
result.
Yeah, I mean, depending on where you are in the world, that
Yeah.
will kind of dictate what kind of regulation that you're going to see. Like you said, the EU is, you know, really on top of these types of things. Everyone should kind of watch what they're doing because they take a lot of rigor to put safeguards in place. But like I said, when you talk about education, the teachers are going to have to change. The teachers are going to have to change. They are going to have to bring AI into every single classroom and have it, and that they're going to have to teach an AI speak.
Mm,
It, so how do they change their curriculums to be a curriculum with an AI base?
mm,
And children are learning these days are is very different. I don't know that I've ever went to a restaurant and never seen and have not seen a screen in front of a baby or a toddler or a middle schooler at the table of the restaurant. Okay. So parents are using, screens as their babysitters in some cases. And, that's where we have to think about, again, there's the good and bad with everything. There's good education from AI that AI can be leveraged and used and should be. And then there's the safeguards. And so you're always going to need to be teaching from the left and right side, good and bad. And regulation is going to help dictate that. You're going to see more stringent in some places than others. And, I sit in the US and, right now we're utilizing AI to make our government more efficient. But then there's a lot of concern about how open this will be. It's kind of like the old days of book censorship, right? What books get censored or not censored, and which ones can be published or not published. Same thing's going to happen with AI, and it should. Regulation is good, and so to safeguard the population of humans. You just we You're just we're just going to have to see it evolve. I think AI is happening much faster than regulation can be put in place. So there's that sweet spot of you're going to have a lot of access until you don't, and the government starts to understand what how they want to curate that.
yeah, it's like the early days of the internet where everything was accessible, and then they locked it down, and now like Google kind of is kind of bad. So now people have this LLMs, but once they put on those regulations, they might, like, if you look at what Anthropic did, Anthropic put in a bunch of these safeguards into their like Claude LLM, and then it became like extremely, extremely, extremely silly, where like you would ask it, "Hey, can you look at my resume and help me update it?" And it'll say, "I'm not gonna help you lie on your resume." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" But I'm just asking you for some critique. I'm not gonna do that. It's unethical. So where
Yeah.
AI goes like 360 on you and like turns into this ethics monitoring entity. So
Yeah. The problem is there's so many out there. There's so many out there. Like how do you get in front of all of them?
right.
And even if they, announce penalties for certain things, it'll take them a long time to find it. I mean, because they have to build the workforce, and in order to be able to hold the regulation compliance everywhere that they're going to need to hold it. And so they don't physically have enough people. Maybe they'll use AI to do it, but they physically don't have enough people to watch all of that.
Well, yeah, eventually it probably is going to be compliance agents, and they will fine you for like asking the wrong question for AI, and you'll get like a fine. So,
Yeah,
imagine like you type in the wrong
yeah, and that's
prompt,
why I
and
mean,
it's they get a five hundred
everyone should
dollar
get
fine. That's
exactly. That's why I just encourage everyone to be aware and to know how it's going to play in your life, and to continue to watch how this evolves, because it is evolving, and you'll want to stay on the forefront of those changes.
all right. Sorry, I think the audio got delayed. Well, everyone, thank you so much, Nicole, for joining. This was extremely insightful conversation. I think we went from kind of enterprise to parenting to regulation. So I think it went all over the place, but it was lots of fun. And thank you for being on the show. We'd love to have you back, maybe in half a year or a year or whenever, and just to see how things have changed for you.
Yes, congratulations on your new baby. And if you want to find me, you can find me on LinkedIn, Nicole, Nicole, Hilgenkamp, Hilgenkamp. I would be happy to connect. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Nicole.
Have a great day.